Hello, friends, and welcome to Liberated Living. We are discussing part 3 in our relationship empowerment model. In video 1, we identified how we form our relationship love language type. And in video 2, we discussed how to overcome conflict within relationships using our empowerment model. So we are identifying our empowerment model in each of these videos. And in the second video, we addressed the archetype pattern that we are operating from within our relationships from the Cartman triangle. So if you haven't listened to either of those videos, I would recommend you listen to part 1 and part 2 first of those videos. And we will also be discussing the opportunity and lesson within partnerships today. So I really hope you can get a lot out of this. And I want to quickly preface that this is not only exclusive to romantic relationships, because we do carry pattern programs within all of our primary relationships. So if you're finding these patterns that are continuing to play out and operate within any relationship, this is going to be very beneficial for you. However, I will relate it to a romantic partner because I would believe that the majority of our relationships will show up more significantly and become more magnified within our romantic partnership. So feel free to adjust it accordingly. And let's go ahead and just jump in and get started. So first of all, we all know that relationships can, again, be some of the best schooling that we have, right? There's always an opportunity and a lesson in any relationship and partnership. What are we gaining from relationships? What are we learning most about relationships? We're going to go ahead and discuss some of these questions throughout this video today. And again, just looking more so at our romantic relationships. So our romantic partners or partnerships appear in our life to open us up, for one, to unconditional love, right? They are our mirrors illuminating parts of us that may have been difficult to see or what we didn't want to acknowledge, our blind spots, for instance. And granted, all truly deep and meaningful relationships do this, but our soul level relationships grant us the chance to do this fully because we are practicing loving ourselves completely and unconditionally, which leads us back to self-realization. And it is an opportunity for us to begin to love and accept ourselves fully and deeply for who we truly are, with compassion and gentleness for our shortcomings. We want nothing more than to be who we truly are, to express our truth, and the human heart desires most for someone else to allow us to do that without judgment or expectation. So we must first demonstrate it towards ourselves if we wish to see it demonstrated externally, or more specifically from our primary relationships. And self-love fills the cracks and bridges these gaps, at least the gaps within our minds. So let's kind of ask some self-reflection questions. What have been the most significant lessons in your intimate relationships? In what way have been transformed, or they have expanded your perspective perhaps for the better? And what has been the best takeaway? What have you learned or gained from your relationships? If you were to answer any of these questions, and after reflecting on any of these, can you perceive that loving yourself more unconditionally is at the heart of each of these lessons or questions? There truly is no better teacher than love, what love is and what love is not. So if we look at relationships, for the most part, relationships are teaching us unconditional love and how to overcome conditional love, which is a lower octave and a density level of operating, right? So self-love is truly the panacea. And you can refer to our ebook, Self-Love is a Panacea. I'm going to read a couple of excerpts from that particular ebook to help expand on this particular concept of unconditional love and how it correlates to self-love. So first of all, self-care is an antidote that opens the door to self-love. Because if you don't hold yourself in high enough regard, neither will others, right? So self-respect is indicative of how you treat and view yourself. And self-respect keeps our positive feelings both flowing and growing. So when we practice self-care, we're also practicing self-respect. And when we do so, we will feel more positive about ourselves. Subsequently, when we're more positive towards ourselves, then self-respect does come naturally. Self-sabotage is obviously when we have some blind spot, or what I like to say is when we don't feel love. It's what love is not, right? So it's where there's a void, a perceived void, or maybe some cognitive distortion that we're holding around love. And self-sabotage is when we're not living congruent to what is life-giving or self-love, which does not serve our highest good. So for instance, consuming a poor diet and lifestyle, entertaining negative relationships, seeking love where it's not available, such as an emotionally or physically unavailable partner, placing our needs last by putting others' needs first or above our own, and doing anything that negates our personal needs and well-being. So please also bear in mind that where we lack self-love is only where we're holding some maybe imprinted or conditioned belief from maybe perhaps a past event that conditioned our mind, where there's some distortion and we just need some healing. And it could be healing a trauma, for instance. So we will often see where we are lacking self-love revealed in our physical health and within our other relationships. But our physical body represents our unconscious mind. So putting ourselves last often creates health defects and imbalances. And we always explore topics such as this in our holistic courses, because holistic encompasses all, the mind, body, and soul, since the mind is not separate from the body. If you're looking for deeper or further information to help you on your wherever you're at in your journey. So please, first of all, don't misconstrue the message that I'm conveying regarding our subconscious programs. I'm not implying in any way that we're all living empty and meaningless lives or endlessly chasing any kind of validation from others. So it may appear that way, but I'm only looking at the areas where there are negative programs. Certainly there are areas where we are operating from good, healthy, positive mindset, but the mind is configured like a computer system and conquered by its programming. So we all have inherent ego programs that operate the same way and that we wish to overcome. And when we learn the mechanics of the mind, we can understand the psychology and know how to rewire, recode this specific psychology. And we will understand that it's on a universal level. So these are all unconscious programs rooted in conditional love, much of which have been transferred within our relationships and from generation to generation, which is why we address so much of generational healing in our courses. So when we learn to love ourselves more, we allow ourselves to also be loved more by others and allowing more love in. So the recommendations given here are simply methods to aid in dissolving these ego-driven programs that derail us from a soulful life of individual fulfillment. Universal laws are immutable for all of us, as the universe is a no respecters of persons. So we must all learn to play by the same rules. And this should keep us unity-minded rather than feeling separated, since this life journey is truly an equal opportunity playing field, and it might help to look at it that way. It won't hurt to remind ourselves on occasion that we're all ultimately playing on the same team, particularly when it comes to the subject of love and feeling injustice or injury. We're each taking part in the same global classroom, learning how to master the art and laws of love. So each person innately deserves to be treated with the same respect, although our behavior or imprinted programs may often suggest otherwise. If we're operating or behaving from any kind of negative programming, it's only an area where we're not feeling loved. And again, we are holding some story, some negative experience that shaped our mind and our perception, that we are just, working through that filter. So if we are depleted of self-love, we may go to the various lengths and measures to feel it, to feel love. And this is where the world can often appear deeply devoid of love. Our actions will always display the ruling party. We covered quite a bit of this in our previous videos. However, I want to discuss self-love versus external stimuli, which is the reward pathway that leads to addictive and codependency behaviors. And it's naturally induced neurochemicals versus artificial neurochemicals versus getting any neurochemicals produced externally, okay? So we recognize that we are our own internal manufacturing system, producing all serotonin and all the happy, positive, uplifting neurochemicals. But it's when we reach for electronics, it's when we reach for some outside stimuli that we become codependent. And when are we reaching or escaping some specific void that we want to feel is really where we want to address the behavior so that we can overcome any kind of codependency or addictive behavior, because it can really become an ongoing and prolonged issue if it's not addressed early enough. So by choosing to first love ourselves and meeting our needs, we will avoid having escaping behaviors and needing to fill the void. So it's by acknowledging and understanding ourselves rather than first desiring it from others, which is not from a state of selfishness, but in fact, quite the contrary. It's from a state of love, self-love, that is, as an act of love, which frankly is contrary to that of selfishness. So let me elaborate. If we're not meeting our own needs from self-love, then we're going to selfishly crave it from others. We will unconsciously expect others to meet our needs for us, which is expecting others to complete us, i.e. meeting our needs. And appreciation is a win-win scenario and mutually beneficial. It beautifully blends gratitude and love. Gratitude and appreciation are two of the most powerful emotions next to love, with the highest energy frequency. These emotions help to promote happiness and positive endorphins. And the optimal way to alchemize any relationship conflict is appreciation, as it also involves understanding and valuing others, including ourselves. This only has the potential to amplify and create conscious relationships. So no brainer, right? Life is a mirror in every respect. And we often project through our cognitive filters of what we want, and we will see life as we are, not actually how life really is, which is a popular quote by Anais Nin. So remember that what we seek from others, we must first demonstrate internally towards ourselves. And that will help us to no longer desire it from others, but we will appreciate it that much more when we do receive it. And it may be a broken record, but so too are our behaviors that are playing like a broken record. So if repetition is the key to programming negative behaviors in the first place initially, then it too is the key to reprogramming it. I often like to say either we have really to reach that heart-mind coherence to effectively re-engage the nervous system and the neural pathway, or we have to continue to repeat the programming, the positive new program, and recode it. And both of these methods will work effectively. It's just a matter of the repetition. So these techniques can be imperative to attaining a greater relationship with ourselves. Look at, for example, what would you love to hear from others that you perhaps could acknowledge in yourself first, for instance? And if we can remember that when we're doing it first for ourselves and not asking or wanting to hear it from others, then we will no longer need it because we're filling that void, we're filling that cup, and we're self-loving. So let's be grateful for the mirror into our consciousness within the behaviors of others, what we want from others, because it does really serve into our own personal consciousness. It lends us insight into our own blind spots, affording us the opportunity to enhance our self-awareness, if you will. And when we can learn to believe in ourselves and hold a higher vision of possibilities, not only for ourselves, but also for others' growth potential as well, then we all win. There's truly no better way to empower a relationship than to believe in one another and to demonstrate mutual support, compassion, and understanding. It really is the magic elixir to any relationship, romantic or otherwise. And we elaborate again on breaking these cycles and how to experience conscious and thriving relationships, enhance greater self-love, how to self-care, deeper alignment work with our empowerment model, key strategies, and so forth. And if you want further guidance on where you're at in your life or in your primary relationships, we have online courses guiding you through adversities with your own intuitive answers and therapeutic exercises that also include meditation, universal wisdom, mindfulness, psychotherapy, therapeutic exercises, and a fun workbook, holistic psychology, and solution-focused principles, and much, much more. So click the link to learn more, and thanks so much for joining me. Be sure to share this information with others that you feel that can gain from this, or like and subscribe if you feel that you gained from this video today. Stay tuned for more each week, and thanks so much for joining me. Bye for now.